Welcome to the Doktor O'Kay Show. I am Doktor O'Kay, and this is Monday Night Raw from Houston, Texas, where we just keep picking up SEMI-nal wins. But of course, we'll get to that in a minute. So let's start with just keep remaining the master forever, which is exactly what Chad Gable said right before the match. So he worked on Otis's left knee and his ankle over and over again until he made Otis tap out with that ankle lock. So that means Chad Gable is the ones, and he had his new pupils ready because early on, after Otis landed a caterpillar, he had Julius grab his foot and place it onto the bottom rope. And of course that will get Julius his 5th fine of the year, and then later on, right near the end of the match, Ivy grabbed Otis's legs, which he then used to pull her into the ring, so Ivy will pick up her 4th fine, but that led immediately to Gable having enough time to finally make Otis tap out to yet another ankle lock after having weakening it and that knee all throughout the match with a dragon corkscrew and also several other ankle locks and painful strikes along the way. So Gable has won 2 matches in a row against the Alpha Academy in 2 weeks, so he goes to 6-8 in one-on-one matches to end 2024, and that makes Otis the 2s, and this was his best effort in a long time as he was able to land a caterpillar and an overhead suplex into both of the Creed brothers, and I guess he learned a few tricks from Gable as he locked in an ankle lock of his own, but the master was one step ahead in this one as Otis had to dispatch of the Creeds twice and even had to shake off Ivy near the end of the match because of course Tozawa, as usual, was no help whatsoever, but Maxine at least did her job and got the best of Ivy with a Thez press on the outside. But unfortunately for Otis, he remains winless on the year in all singles matches, going to 0-5 in one-on-one matches. And since Gable had his new pupils do all of his tricks and was able to foil Otis's A-game, we have to wonder if Otis will get another chance. But for today, this gets an okay. Up next, we just keep wondering where this came from as Dakota pulled out all of the stops and landed a super kick followed by a go-to kick to advance to the finals in the women's IC tournament. And that means Dakota is the ones, and maybe I need my eyes checked for what I saw from her, or maybe I just need my back cracked as she landed a chiropractor that we have not seen in quite some time, as well as her usual coast-to-coast face wash that Tessitore is now just calling the Dakota kick, and then she followed that up with a second straight kick to Zoe's face before she finished it off with that GTK. Amazingly enough, this is her first one-on-one win since October of 2022, and so she does not end the year winless in one-on-one action, going to 1-5. And that makes Zoe the 2s as she won the early battle on the apron with a missile drop kick and also had a couple nice moves of her own with a flipping exploder suplex, and she followed that up with a big knee right to Dakota's mouth, but she was caught on a second missile drop kick attempt, so she ends up losing, going to 2-5 in one-on-one matches. But with lots of animosity between Damage Control and PFC, these two really showed out with their best work, so we'll give this an okay. Up third, we just keep wearing us all out, because if you've seen one Judgment Day match, you've seen them all. And again, they apparently just have no skill because their old tricks just don't get it done as they get dominated. And that means Damian Priest and the War Raiders are the ones, and they took advantage right off of the bell and barely let up for the entire match. And even though Priest couldn't land a razor's edge on Dominic as he squirmed away and turned it into a nice Hurricane Rana, but Priest was ready for a 619, so he took care of business, ending it with a South of Heaven chokeslam. And of course, this was just a thrown together group. We don't expect anything from them going forward, but they are 1-0 to end the year And that means the Judgment Day are the twos, and neither Dominic nor Raquel knew what Liv has planned for next week in her match against Rhea Ripley, but Balor told Raquel to tell Liv that he wishes her the best of luck. But the guys apparently had no plan either, because even with Carlito at ringside and helping out a couple of times, first pushing Balor out of the way of Ivar, and then later getting up onto the apron to distract Damian Priest, they just couldn't really get anything done for a sustained period of time, and they take the loss with this particular trio going to 0-2. But after the match, per usual, Balor attacked Priest from behind, and with the help of Carlito holding Priest's leg down on the rope for leverage, he stomped away at him until he went up for a coup de grace. However, the War Raiders chased him out of the ring before any real damage could be done. But even though I have few words left for the incompetence of the men of the Judgment Day, we're going to have to give this a double not okay. And in our main headline and main event, we just keep picking up semi-nal wins as Lyra defeats Io Sky for the second time in a tournament semifinals in 2024 by countering a bunch of standing switches and an O'Connor roll with her own roll-up to pick up a clutch victory. And that means Lyra is the ones, as she went deep into her arsenal with a rocking horse submission and a nice combo of a shotgun dropkick, tornado DDT, and a fisherman suplex. Then later she had a spinning heel kick and a swinging net breaker, but when none of these big moves were able to put Io away, she bested her with that final pinning combo, so she gets her first one-on-one win since August and finishes the year 6-4 in one-on-one matches. But more importantly, she will go on to face Dakota in the finals. So that means Io is the twos, and she managed to fight through Lyra's attacks on her injured left knee throughout, as it ended up not being a factor in the end. So she had a German suplex bridge pinning combo that couldn't quite put Lyra away, and later had a really impressive flipping Michinoku driver off of the top rope, then a moonsault onto the floor, but she then missed in over the moonsault. That led to her downfall in the finish. So Io drops her second straight one-on-one match to end at just 6-4, but she still tied Liv Morgan for the most singles wins in 2024 on Monday Night Raw, going 10-5. And with this being the final ever match on Monday Night Raw on the USA Network, it certainly came through and deserved all of the "this is awesome" cheers that the crowd gave it, so it will get a double okay. But then the announce team said that the finals would be in 2 weeks on Monday Night Raw. I don't care what else is on the card for the premiere next week on Netflix. This is simply an egregious error by the WWE to not give these women a chance to be on that premiere show, so it gets a double not okay. So with that, let's go beyond the mat for Monday Night Raw with The New Day hijacking the show right off the bat, as Jey Uso was supposed to be the one to lead off the show, but the crowd booed The New Day relentlessly that they never got to say anything at all. So then Jey finally showed up, and despite him agreeing that they go way back, he also said that The New Day sucks. So that made The New Day finally leave the ring without getting their message across, so Jey turned his attention to Drew McIntyre. But before he got very far, the new Bloodline showed up on the Titantron, and Solo said that he had to get Reigns' attention by doing everything that he did this year, but said next week in Tribal Combat, the Ulafala will remain on him. But before Jey could do anything about this, Drew McIntyre showed up and attacked him from behind, so Jey fortunately was able to stop a Claymore with a super kick of his own. But McIntyre turned it around with a Glasgow kiss that Wade Barrett is now all of a sudden calling a Glaswegian kiss. So congrats to the people of Norway for being part of this move now. Anyways, the officials came in and broke it up, so Drew McIntyre left the ring temporarily before, of course, he turned right back around, ran into the ring, and hit that Claymore on Jey. So because McIntyre had a rather benign push of an official, we're going to have to tack a little bit on top of his attack on Jey, so he'll get a 1-week suspension instead of just a fine, which is his 15th suspension of the year, which easily is the most on Monday Night Raw. But later on, Adam Pearce caught up to Jey Uso backstage and told him that he would get a one-on-one match against Drew McIntyre on next week's Netflix premiere of Monday Night Raw. And later yet, we saw Rey Mysterio encouraging Otis after his loss to Chad Gable. And so the New Day came up to him and mocked him and the rest of the LWO for Rey having his locker room leader shtick going. And of course, this led to Rey challenging all of the New Day members to a tag match. And of course, the New Day accepted it. So with lots of balls up in the air during these several segments, we'll give it an okay. Well, this was supposed to be a 5-match card on this final Monday Night Raw, but as R-Truth was singing his song going to the ring, Pete Dunne came up from behind and attacked him, pummeling him on the ground until WWE officials stopped him and the match was called off. And because this attack ruined a scheduled match, it has to get an upgrade to a 1-week suspension for Pete Dunne, which is his 4th of the year. But with Truth on a 2-match winning streak, we wanted to see if he could keep that going, so this gets a double not okay. Ludwig Kaiser appeared in a ring and it looked like he was going to introduce Gunther, but nope, he was doing it for himself, saying that he now deserves to be at the top of the food chain, which is pretty funny considering he loses every single match that he's ever in. But regardless, he called out Braun Breaker, and instead of Breaker, we got Sheamus returning for the first time since Survivor Series when Kaiser broke his rib. But Sheamus was ready to go in this one, while Kaiser was certainly not. Sheamus easily dominated him with a kneecap and a brogue kick to knock him out of the ring. And since Kaiser didn't want this fight for a change, it's only going to be a fine for Sheamus. But I have to say, can't this just be over yet? It's going to get a double not okay. We had a couple pre-taped segments for the matches for next week, but there was nothing really of note other than Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley actually agreeing to one thing, that this must end. Since no one decided to show up, however, this gets a not okay. And lastly, in the final segment ever on Monday Night Raw on USA, we just keep pondering if words can hurt you, as Seth Rollins kicked this off with a face-to-face with CM Punk, saying that he's out here every week while Punk might just take his ball and go home. But Punk followed this up by asking if Stone Cold Steve Austin just took his ball and went home, or if the man, Becky Lynch, just took her ball and went home. Or is Punk the only one that can be accused of taking his ball and going home? Instead, he said that he has no regrets and will get a boatload of money next week beating him on that premiere of Netflix. And he also pointed out all of the injuries that Rollins has suffered, so he clearly knows what he will be attacking next week. But Rollins retorted by saying that Punk tried everything to tear the place down, including going to the competition. But Punk said that he actually loved working for the WWE, but he did not love the guy that was in charge. However, he pointed out that guy who was in charge loved Rollins. But he also noted that Rollins is the one trying to play the victim when he was the one that stabbed Roman Reigns in the back. And speaking of being stabbed in the back, Punk said that he has lots of arrows in his back, but he was able to finally pull all of those arrows out, and he's going to jam a fistful of them down Rollins' corporate throat next week. So Rollins finished up by saying that Punk was once a pioneer, but now he is a cancer, and the only way to get rid of cancer is to cut it out. So he will do that and burn Punk to the ground next week. And there's nothing to say other than this was amazing, and I am certainly fired up for next week's main event, so be sure to go back and watch that segment. It obviously gets a double okay. But speaking of amazing, it's amazing that the SportsZu finally did his real job and released his NHL video talking about how boring the NHL's overtime is and how he is going to fix it. But more importantly, if you missed my SmackDown video with all of my amazing first row video footage, and of course all of my amazing grades as well, make sure to go right on over here and check that out. And with a proper send-off to Monday Night Raw on USA, I will have to give this an okay.